everyone, today I am in a car that I have been trying to get a hold of for quite some time. It's a Toyota GT86. Now those of you that watch the channel frequently may know that I've already driven a couple of GT86s. Well, yes, that is true, but there's a couple of caveats there. First off, I've been on the wrong side of the car on both those occasions. Secondly, at no point in time have I ever taken any GT86 out of second gear. I've only ever got in these things for the express purpose of going sideways. And that's been an awful lot of fun, but that doesn't really tell me what the car is like to drive. Fortunately, Jono, viewer of the channel, got in touch and offered me a go of his lovely and reasonably standard 86. Now, for those of you viewing from the States, we call this a GT86, you call it the 86. I believe there's also the Scion FRS and the Subaru BRZ, or BRZ, as I know some UK viewers want me to say. Well, for all intents and purposes, these are basically the same car. Now, it was a co-development between Toyota and Subaru, and you know what? I feel kind of sorry for Toyota, because for years in the UK, the automotive press have been basically getting very, very nostalgic over what cars used to be like. And they've been crying out for someone to make a front engine, rear wheel drive car with modest power outputs and low weight that's just fun to drive. And nobody buys them. Now, apparently, everywhere else, these have been a great success. But I think it's fair to say that in the UK, they received, well, a lukewarm reception. Why is that? Well, a couple of things, I think. First off, I think there may have been some element of snobbery towards the Toyota badge. You have to remember that the MR2, certainly that iconic Mark II MR2, or Gen 2 MR2, whatever you want to call it, that's been gone for quite a while. The Supra, for most people, is a distant memory, so Toyota these days is not really a company that's associated with making super sporty cars. Now, I know that Toyota's boss, Akio Toyoda, is in the process of changing that, and this car is probably a part of that plan, and I'm glad that they've made it. And the other reason, really, I think is quite simple. People now, particularly younger people, have gotten very used to small, high-power, turbocharged hot hatchbacks that give you an awful lot of shove at basically any RPM and are very quick and fun in a straight line. And when you haven't been fortunate enough to sample a large number of cars, you probably don't appreciate things like balance and poise and handling feel and all that lovely good stuff that us true petrol heads say that we like. And the final reason I think that this car didn't do very well is that most car magazines reviewed them and then sort of admitted the fact that they said that, okay, yeah, on paper, this idea of a 1200 kilo car with about 200 horsepower sounds like it's enough, but in the real world, they all wanted a little bit more, and we all waited for Toyota to give us that little bit more. It's essentially a Subaru engine, so everyone was waiting for that obvious turbo version, and it never happened. And I'm not sure it ever will. I think Toyota are very committed to saying, nope, this is the car we meant to build, you deal with it. I think a lot of this is a very Japanese mindset in the way that I think they expected the end user to do quite a bit of modification. In fact, there's actually a version of this car you can buy in Japan which has steel wheels and an unpainted crap bumper on the front, and it's built explicitly for people that know they're going to mod it, they're going to go and put a body kit on it, so you can buy it, and it's dirt cheap. I think someone told me it's something like 16,000 pounds. Don't quote me on it, but it's dirt cheap. Really, really cheap. And of course, if you're into modding cars and things, it's going to be a great base for that. But over here, I think they enjoyed only modest success, which I think is a shame. I think they're a great looking car, got very classic proportions. It is actually a 2+2, which is something I must confess I forget all the time. It's no secret that the most controversial element of the stock GT86 is the eco-style tyres and Prius wheels. Although I like the look of the magnesium wheels, most people agree that for making good progress, the tyres have to go. This car is wearing slightly wider OZ Ultraligeras and Yokohama V105s. I'm a big fan of Yokohama tyres from my Elise days, and these work perfectly for a fast road car. Sitting in it and driving it is very easy. It's very natural. I've got good visibility. And one thing it isn't, and one thing it doesn't do, is sound like a Subaru. Yes, it's a 2-litre flat 4 boxer engine, and so is my WRX, but it sounds nothing like the Subaru at all. Now the power figures are not exactly super impressive, about 200 horsepower, that's at 7,000 RPM, and about 150 pound-foot of torque at 6,600. This is an engine you really do need to work to get the best out of. Now there are a couple of ways that you can easily improve that, and as I'm currently stuck behind a gargantuan Fiat, might as well tell you about those. If you want to keep things basic and simple, one of the best things you can do to modify the throttle response and improve it a little bit, because it isn't perfect. One of the things you do notice when you're just hooning this car around and drifting it, particularly when I did so in Sweden, is the throttle response is just a little slow for a naturally aspirated car. However, there's 2 catalytic converters in here. Delete one and you solve that problem. One thing that is just delightful is the gearbox. Honestly, it's just right. Now, this car has a beautiful one-off titanium shift knob made by the owner's father, and it is an absolute delight. It's massive, and despite the fact that it's made out of titanium, it's very heavy, very solid. I love it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. The car has 6 speeds, and it can be remarkably frugal. So this car's owners reported anything from mid-20s when driving spiritedly to nearly 50 to the gallon if you're trying to just hypermile it a little bit and you're just making sort of dull progress on the motorway. But driving the car around town and everything, it's perfectly pleasant. That's another thing that I noticed. Again, I've only driven the car in very specific and slightly odd circumstances, say on a skid pan and on a frozen lake. Now I'm actually in one on a normal road. There's a couple of things I begin to appreciate. The ride. It's really good. It's really nice. I can feel plenty of what's going on. I feel that mostly through the seat, and there is feedback through the steering wheel, which is quite pleasant. The wheel itself is nice and thin. It's about the right size. I do prefer the wheel that they have in the 2nd generation of this car, which is slightly different in a few ways. It's got some buttons on it from memory. It's the same wheel that they then put on the Yaris GRMN. And that Yaris is also a hint of what may be to come for the GT86, because you are in future going to see more GRMN products. So Toyota, of course, have released the Hot Yaris. They are continuing to support this. Everyone knows that there is a new Supra on the way, and there will be a GRMN version of that. If you're not familiar with that brand, that's Gazoo Racing, tuned by the Meisters of the Nürburgring. That is going to be the designation given to hot Toyota models from now on. So TRD will still exist, but TRD have always been a bit of an aftermarket thing, so don't expect to see any more TRD models in future. Do expect to see GRMN cars, and they are going to be cool. Toyota have even hinted at a revival of the MR2. That would be nice. So, as car companies go, they're doing a lot to please petrol heads, and not just petrol heads, petrol heads with modest budgets. A nice thing about this car as well, it's just the right size. Cars are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Our roads are not. I think this is something that's always going to be appreciated by a Japanese manufacturer, because they have probably an even more extreme space problem than we do. American cars, or cars designed for the American market, of course, don't give two hoots about how big they get because they have loads and loads of space. You lucky, lucky buggers. Right, now, I did say this was a 2+2, and apparently you can, for short periods, get good friends in the back. Whether they're good friends afterwards is taken on a case-by-case basis, but it can be done. Me, I'd use it for a bit of extra storage space, to be honest. So at long last, we found some roads slightly more appropriate to the car, which means I can start to enjoy the performance and tell you a little bit more about it. Handling is just right. With these larger wheels, slightly stickier tyres, I've got plenty of confidence in that rear end, and of course the car doesn't really have that much power to get you into trouble anyway. As you can see, you can enjoy revving the car out. You can heel and tow it, you can do these things. You know, you don't often get in a car which is set up to do heel and tow that well anymore. Especially some turboed cars, they don't all react in quite the way you'd want them to. But this is lovely. No, it's not that fast, there's no getting around that, but that's not a problem. It really, really isn't. For a road like this is an absolutely delightful car. Yes, we've had some issues earlier because, well, we just didn't have the space or the power to get past other traffic, but once you find a road that you've got to yourself that you can enjoy, it's delicious. Absolutely delicious. Where should we go here, left or right? Sound from that Miltech is very, very pleasant. Gearbox, delightful. I am enjoying driving this car, and that's the key. I can pick faults with it if I want to. You pick the interior. It's not that great. It is improved a little bit on the second gen car. There's some quite nice touches. There's this nice little pad here on the side where I can rest my arm if you're driving more gently. And that nice high MPG figure is always pleasant to look at as well when you're just coasting along or you're just cruising. Toyota didn't build this car to set lap records, to beat a Golf in a 0 to 60 dash. They built it for one reason and one reason only: to be an enjoyable car, to try and fill the definition of a sports car. In much the same way that I recently had a brief go in the Lexus LC500. What the hell? There's something you don't see every day. So in much the same way that I recently drove the Lexus LC500, which is designed very much as a GT car, so is this designed as a sports car. Outright performance isn't the aim, driving enjoyment is. That's where Toyota have succeeded. It's heartening to see people like Jono buying this as, well, one of his first cars. And I hope that he does keep it and eventually modify it. My choice would be supercharging it. I do know someone that's turboed one of these, but my instincts would say that supercharging is definitely the better choice. And fun fact, for right-hand drive cars, turbocharging is considerably more difficult than left-hand drive ones, because where you'd want to put a turbo naturally, the best placement for it is kind of obscured by your steering column and all the gubbins that go in a right-hand drive car. So supercharging is, in my opinion, not just a better choice, but it's actually a mechanically easier choice to make as well. So there you have it. That is, in a nutshell, and I'm sorry for the slow start, the Toyota GT86. I'm reasonably confident most of the things I've said will also apply to the Subaru, and if you're American, the Scion. If you've got one of these, fair play. I think it takes someone pretty committed to choose one of these over the obvious, more practical and faster hatchback. But for the few people out there that really do enjoy their driving, this is lovely. Even got feel through the steering wheel, and that's something I don't encounter anywhere near enough these days. But I'm glad to see Toyota continuing to persevere with this car, and it's not going to get dropped anytime soon. I know we all want the hot version of it, which may not happen, but the Supra is coming out soon, and if that's half as good to drive as this is, but with a lot more power, that's going to be a hell of a car. So I want to thank you guys all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope this won't be the last time I drive an 86, because I've really enjoyed it. And you know something? I checked the classifieds the other day. When the Subaru goes and I've got a little bit of money, maybe next year, I think I'll be looking at one of these. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.